Hi everyone, I'm Esther. In this first checkup, we'll take a look at practice questions using the be verb in the past simple tense. Remember, the be verbs in the past simple tense are was or were. Let's take a look at the first sentence. He blank at work earlier. The subject here is we. So, do we use was or were? The correct answer is was. He was at work earlier. The next sentence says, we blank very happy yesterday. If the subject is we, remember the be verb is were. We were very happy yesterday. Next, my parents or they blank worried about me. If it's they, remember we have to say were. My parents were worried about me. If I want to use the negative, I can also say my parents weren't worried about me, and that's possible. Now, I want you to find the mistake in the next sentence. We wasn't good students. We wasn't good students. Can you figure out what's wrong? The subject here is we, so we don't say was not. We need to say were not, or the contraction weren't. We weren't good students is the correct answer. The next one says, were she a teacher? Now this is a question, so the be verb comes at the beginning. That's correct. But the subject here is she. Therefore, we need to start with was. Was she a teacher? And finally, they wasn't at school. The subject is they, so the answer is they weren't at school. You can use the contraction weren't or were not. Let's move on to the next checkup. Now, let's practice regular verbs in the past simple tense. Take a look at the first sentence. He blank at home. The verb is study. Remember, when changing a regular verb into the past tense, we add d or ed to the end of the verb. However, there's a separate rule for words that end in y, such as study. We drop the y and we add ied. So the correct answer is he studied at home. The next sentence says, we blank pencils. We want to use the negative because it says not use. Remember, for the negative, we always use did not, no matter what the subject. You can also use the contraction didn't. Now, what do we do to the verb? We keep it as is. We do not change it. We didn't or we did not use pencils. The next sentence says, his friends or they walk to the gym. What's the past tense of walk? We simply have to add ed because it's a regular verb. His friends walked to the gym. Now, find the mistake in the next sentence. She didn't likes math. Didn't is correct. However, remember, we keep the verb as is in the base form. So, we don't say likes, we say like. She didn't like math. The next sentence says, did it rain this morning? Now this is a question. In a question, it's right to start the sentence with did. Did it rain? Do you notice the mistake? Remember, we do not use the past tense form in the question. We use the base form of the verb. Did it rain this morning? And finally, they not play the piano. The verb is an action verb, so we need a did in front of the not. They did not play the piano. Let's move on to the next checkup. Now, I'll talk about irregular verbs in the past simple tense. Take a look at the first sentence. He blank to school, and the verb is run. Run is an irregular verb, so the past tense form is ran. He ran to school. The next sentence says, we blank flowers. We want to use the negative because here it says not grow. Remember, no matter what the subject, in the negative form, we say did not or didn't. Then we keep the verb in its base form. We did not grow or we didn't grow flowers. The next sentence says, where blank you teach last year. This is a question. Again, all we need to put is did. Where did you teach last year? It doesn't matter what the subject is. We always go with did. Next, try to find the mistake in the next sentence. He didn't sold newspapers. Remember, in the negative, didn't is correct for whatever subject there is. However, we need to keep the verb in its base form. So, the correct answer is he didn't sell newspapers. The next sentence says, did she sing a song? You'll notice it's a similar problem here. Sang is the irregular past tense form of sing. But in a question, if it starts with did, we use the base form. Did she sing a song? And finally, we taked it home. Does that sound right? Taked is not correct. The past tense of taked is took. We took it home. Great job, everyone. Let's move on. Wow, we learned a lot in this video. Keep studying and reviewing the past simple tense. It's an essential tense that will help you talk about the past. Keep studying English, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!